So now we can go through and we'll go through and start creating some searches. So we'll jump to this first point and we'll go through, and to be able to create a search, see on this move L before the arc start, it's anything created is grayed out because we're not allowed to create a point between these two. So we can click on these, move right here, create search instruction. You can change off whether you want to have the PDISP sets before or after. You can deselect them. I usually deselect them, and then pin this up here. So now in this search 1D wire, or search wire 1D, you've got search 1D wire, search 3D wire. You might have search 2D wire depending upon what settings you have currently installed in your system, or what options you have installed in your system. Now the options are loaded through these search templates here. You can bring them in, but you'd also have to bring them in the home tab, and this is kind of a hidden area. There's this path programming, this little arrow right here, instruction template manager, and here's where you'd bring in other instructions. And so the search 3D and things of that nature are all brought in. So here's search 1D, and that's the default search, but the process definitions, that is where you bring in your 3D and other searches, and 2D searches. All it is tells it how to set it up, and so really what it creates is 3 1D searches. So we'll go here and create search instruction. We're going to go we'll do a 1D wire, and I'll just show you how you can do these to create a 3D search doing one at a time. So you go right there, click, and there's that arrow right there, that blue arrow. That tells where you're searching, it points to where you're searching, and also tells the direction of the search. So the search is going to start up there and then come down there. And it creates 2 rob targets right there. There's 2 rob targets. And so here I can go through and create another one, create search instruction. I'm going to deselect this add PDISP after, and then I can create another one right there, and you can see that arrow right there. Okay, and I can create another one. Since I've got this pinned up here, I can just create another one right there. So that's one way to go through and create 3 wire searches. Or, saves a little bit of time and a few mouse clicks, which may not make much of a difference on a little program, but on a big program it may. So you can go create search instruction, change this from 1D wire to wire 3D, and go 1, 2, 3, and 1 OK. And I just had that add PDISP set afterwards deselected, so that's why I didn't create that PDISP set after these points. So in here, it's all set up. Now the advantage of doing the create 3D wire, or create wire 3D, is usually when they do that, we can go modify instruction here. You've already got these pre-PDISPs set up when programming, because pre-PDISP, so this search, whatever its result is going to be added into this search. So this is the result of PDISP1, or PDISP S1, and this PDISP S1 goes into PDISP S2, PDISP S2 goes into PDISP S3. Depending upon what settings you have set up and what process definitions you have set up in here, will be dependent upon how this is actually all worded and set up. So that's how you create searches. So then usually this is a JMove, and usually the search is also going to keep the same torch, this x-axis of the torch, the handle of the torch, pointing in the same direction of whatever move follows the path when you create the search. So since this is the path that was created afterwards, it's going to follow that that handle direction. So here I'm going to change this to remove L, from remove J to remove L, and usually what I do is I'll jump to that point right there, and I want to create an air move. There's a couple of different ways you can do it. You can go create air instruction, and this is automatically always going to default to arc move apps J, or something similar to that. It won't default to a move J. I'm going to pin this up here. So I'm going to change this to move J, and I can create it right where it's at. I can create a couple of them right where it's at. I can adjust the target. I reference the world in reference to the work object. So if as I change this from world to work object, these numbers change. So okay, in reference to work object, I can move this to 100, and it's going to move it further away. Move it 500. Oop, not 600. 5,600. So you can do different things with this, and then hit apply, and so then there's that work object is. The other thing is you can go through and use these drag tools here. Select a torch, move it up to where you want it to be, and go create error instruction, and there you go. And the other thing is, if you go have this create error instruction set up and they say, hey, that's not where I want it, I select here, you can see where that automatically selects, but when or jumps to that point when selecting there, you can move your torch around, put it to where you want it to be. Oops. If you have any of these things selected here, when you're moving these around, it'll jump to that point. But what you have to do, so I'll show you what this looks like. So if I've got this selected right there, and I move this around, as soon as I get to a point I can jump to, it'll jump to that point. So that could be inconvenient many times. So I usually try to make sure those are deselected. But if you want to put this at a right location, so you can see if this target's currently going to be made right there, you have to go present and then OK. So I've created 3 targets here. Doesn't really matter which one. I can keep whichever one I want to. I can delete whichever ones I want to. So then there we go. And so there's my path, and there's the end path. I'm going to jump to that point. Oops. Make sure it actually moves to the right point. And then this is a glitch due to this version of Robot Studio. So then I can click here. I can move this up, deselect that, and just move this right up to where I want to. Move it back a little bit if I want to. Whoops. Had my mouse still selected when I was dragging that. Create error instruction, and I can change this from move J to move L, and hit OK. So then here's my whole path, and there's error instructions and search instructions as I go through there. And this is the move to button, this is the jump to button. So there's creating those air moves, creating 1D wires or 3D wires, 2D wires if you have the functionality. It works the same way as a 1D wire or a 3D wire, except you've got 2 clicks instead of 3. Now let's change between a wire and a nozzle search. So to change between a wire and a nozzle, say this search right here, I don't want it to be a wire search, but I want it to be a nozzle search. This can only be done by, in the instruction, modify instruction. You can right click the point and go modify instruction or modify instruction. Once you have it open, you can just go through and select it. Change this / wire from enable to not enabled, hit apply, and the point doesn't change yet. So the target hasn't changed yet. So the way how to change it is just move this y-axis value right here, move it anything. And once you move that, any amount at all, it'll automatically update. So you need to apply. So now this is a nozzle search. And there, it's based off of the nozzle. And what it's measuring here is from this z-axis, whatever that distance I told it that it needs to be, 5 millimeters I think it was, and it's going to measure from that TCP, or the wire, outside of that wire, 5 millimeters to that flush plane right there. And it doesn't mean that here won't touch, it just means that that's what it's looking for. So you can adjust this, how many millimeters you want it away. 0 millimeters, so it'll be touching at the same time. So you can set it up to be like that, so it's a straight up and down search right at that point. And so then another thing is, as you move to these points, you see how the torch might actually going through the part, or the nozzle. Let's slow this down so we can see this. So you can slow things down or speed things up. So the nozzle might hit that, or the wire might hit that and get bent. in real life, what happens in an arc welding PowerPac, it doesn't retract. So in real search, it'll go from this point to that point and then retract back to that point and then move on. But still, what I want to do is I just want to create another air move. So I'm going to select right there, deselect the selection thing there, move this up a little bit, and go right here and create air instruction. Create one right there, and create another one right there. So that way it moves up, and moves down, does the search, then moves up, and goes into position. That way I just make sure I've avoided any possible collisions or clipping of the wire or bending of the wire as I go through here, just to make sure things look good and run good when I do those searches.